Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be a weekly reading vlog. I'm in a sweatshirt. It's the end of May. That's a little crazy. It's a very dark and rainy and stormy day outside and it's about 65 degrees and this is going to be the last nice day like this for a while. I say nice. I know everyone has a different opinion on what weather is nice. I am not a summer person, so 65 is like a perfect temperature for me. It's raining outside. I love a good rainy day. The rest of this week it's gonna get into the 90s, so I am taking the opportunity to wear a sweatshirt. It's the last time I'll probably wear a sweatshirt until like September or October, so I'm really soaking it in, even though I could get away with wearing a t-shirt. But we are starting this vlog off on a very perfect day to read. Very dark, very stormy, not a lot of work to do, so I have a lot of reading time. And the book that I am currently reading is The Pretender by Jo Harkin, and I am only 50 pages into this one, but I'm really loving this one so far. This is a historical fiction book. It's taking place during the Tudor period. The War of the Roses has just kind of concluded, and that very tumultuous period of time before the reign of the Tudors really gets kick-started. So it's an era of history that I'm really familiar with, that I really enjoy reading about and researching about. When it comes to nonfiction, this one is fiction, and I'm already so pleasantly surprised at how immersed I am in this story and how intrigued I am by the premise of this one, and also how funny it is. Like, already this one is written in just such a clever style. First of all, the writing style is just very clever, and it's really making this historical fiction book feel very accessible. I like historical fiction. I totally get, though, that it's sometimes not the most accessible genre for a lot of people, but I think the way that this is written does it really well, and it's very funny, and it's doing a good job of humanizing these people. And even though they lived so long ago that it's hard for us to imagine that they were real people just like us, they feel so real. The character work already in here is great, showing that just certain types of jokes and humor and character relationships echo like what we experience today. So I'm really enjoying that so far. So 50 pages in, we are introduced to our main character, who is a young peasant boy named John, and he has a very normal upbringing, lives in a very small village, and even though it is a very tumultuous time in history, he is so far removed from that. He lives in the countryside and is just enjoying his small, quiet day-to-day. However, one day a nobleman comes and his father says that John is going to be going to Oxford to get an education. A nobleman has pledged some money to give him this education, which is exciting for John. But as they are riding out going to Oxford, he gets some very surprising information, and this nobleman tells him his name is not John, his father's not his father, and his name is actually something different. And I like the way that this book is set up, because part one was titled John, and then at the very end of it you get this realization that maybe some different things are happening. Potentially he doesn't actually know like his parentage and who he is actually, or it could be something else is afoot. But nevertheless, that section ends, and then the next section is called Lambert, which is the name that these noblemen are saying that John's real name is, and then is actually the real heir to the throne rather than Henry VII. So he's going to go on a journey. He's going to go on a journey from just a normal peasant boy, very far removed from the workings of the Tudors and court and royal intrigue, and he's going to be inserted into the very center of it eventually. So I'm not very far into this one at all, but so far really enjoying it. So that's a pretty chunky book. It should take me a couple of days to read, and then after that, who knows? I'm a mood reader. I love a weekly reading vlog because I never know what books I'm going to get to. So I'm going to go get to reading, and I'll check back in later with a reading update. Hey vlog, still making my way through The Pretender and really enjoying it. Yesterday, Stephen King's new book came out, Never Flinch, and after work, me and my partner went to Barnes & Noble. I was planning on picking it up. I wasn't necessarily planning on reading it this week. I am currently reading the Dark Tower series and I want to finish that before I read another Stephen King book. However, it was release day. It's become a tradition for me to go ahead and pick up the latest Stephen King on release day, and it just seemed like a fun thing to do on a Tuesday, go get a little bit of book shopping in. So we went, and every single copy of Never Flinch looked like a person had picked it up and thrown it across the room. Like, they all looked so battered, and like my shelves are a mix of new books and new to me books. I buy a lot of secondhand. In particular, I have a lot of vintage Stephen King, so I don't mind buying a book that's not in pristine condition. I actually really love buying used books, and that just they have a story. I love the feel of an old book. So, you know, I don't need perfection in my books, but part of the fun in buying a new book is to break it in yourself. And also, hardbacks are like $30. I don't want to buy a hardback that's not perfect. So me and my partner looked everywhere trying to find a good copy, and we didn't find any, so we didn't end up buying anything, came back home. That's okay. I'm just a little bummed, so maybe this weekend we'll have to hit up another bookstore and see if they have better copies. I don't think I'm asking for too much when a hardcover is $30 for it not to look like someone has been beating it up. So yeah, that was a little disappointing, but I am enjoying my current read. Plans for today, I just finished up work, and as soon as my partner gets home, we're going to put on some flip-flops and then go to Tropical Smoothie because it's free smoothie day if you wear flip-flops. So that just sounds like a really fun reward after a day of work. So we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna read some more. I thought today I would have a little bit of a book haul for y'all, but that was just not in the cards. So currently enjoying my current read, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow with another update. Hey vlog, a teensy tiny little update before I batch film a bunch of content today in preparation for vacation later on next month, but I am almost done with The Pretender, and I'm really loving it. It's almost 500 pages, so it's been a behemoth. I'm on page 371, and I'm just loving it so much. I definitely could have finished this yesterday had me and my partner not bleached and dyed my hair all weekend long. I just did not want to get Arctic Fox or bleach on this book, so I had to put it down. We had a Criminal Minds marathon instead. My partner is the absolute best and helps me bleach and dye my hair because it is a very lengthy process. So we did that, and I am almost done with The Pretender. Just really loving it. I'm really loving a lot of the historical fiction that I have read during this time. Are characters that you would expect. I feel a lot of kings, a lot of queens, a lot of people that were very involved with the major events of the time. And that's not to say our main character in this book isn't involved, but in terms of history books, he's very much a footnote sort of character. And I love the idea of taking a character that maybe in someone else's story, especially in history books, would only be a footnote, and then just giving them their own sort of story, fleshing out their entire life. Because of course, during this period, unless you were a king or a queen, or even if you were, for example, right now, I'm actually currently reading a nonfiction book, Young and Damned and Fair, The Life of Catherine Howard, and this book is going into the life of Catherine Howard, who was one of King Henry VIII's wives. But the fact of the matter is, even though she was a queen, just because of the way that in particular women during the time, like their lives were recorded, even though she became queen, there's a lot we don't know about her her. So I think it's really cool that even such notable characters, even if they're not notable for a long stretch of history, we don't know a lot about them. And for historical fiction, that's such a fun sandbox to play in. So I really love this one. It's so interesting with our main character just having so many names depending on what situation he's in. He starts off as a farm boy named John, and then becomes Simnel, becomes King Edward for a couple of days, becomes Simnel again. This really deals with that identity and that switching identity, and our main character not really knowing who he is and wondering like how much that impacts who he is as a person. If you never really know who you are, if your identity is constantly being changed, that's more than a name. So I'm having a great time with this one. It continues to be very funny, very heartfelt, and I know that I'm going to be missing these characters when this book is over. So definitely a win for Aardvark this month. When I'm filming this, it is early June, so I think you'll see this later June or July depending on upload schedule. But recently I have been reading a lot of my Aardvark book box picks, and for the most part they're going so amazingly well. That was my goal this year because I did sign up for more book boxes. I was on pretty much a no-buy last year, and my goal when signing up for book boxes was to actually read the picks in a timely manner. And not only is that happening, especially for Aardvark, but I'm having a really great time with the picks. And I can pretty confidently say, in particular for this book, while The Pretender by Jo Harkin might have landed on my radar eventually, I don't think I would have owned it. I don't think I would have gotten to it this year. So this is turning out to be quite the unexpected favorite, at least so far. Definitely one of the best books that I have read in this first half of 2025. So I wanted to give a quick update. Next update, I will have finished this. We'll move on to another book. I'm gonna go get to batch filming some videos. I'll talk to y'all later. So I finished The Pretender and I really enjoyed this one. This was, especially at the end, equal parts heartbreaking and funny, and such a great character study. I am pretty familiar with this era of history, but honestly, I think that even if you aren't, if you pick this up, this is the kind of historical fiction where you read it and you want to go and do research on your own afterward. And I think that's a great hallmark of a historical fiction tome like this one, when you finish reading it and you want to dive into the history and just explore more about the era. So I really enjoyed this. It was very successful. The main character, John Simnel Edward, lots of different names for him throughout his life, but he's one of my favorite characters that I've read this year, and I really enjoyed like the explorations of his character and how he had so many very different experiences, and really kind of exploring that nature versus nurture. This is pretty slow moving. There is a lot to deal with, plots and overthrowing monarchy and espionage, but it's not as fast-paced as all of those buzzwords might make you think. But it is like it's a slower character study, so know that going in. I really loved it. What I also really loved, there were multiple female characters in here that just were so fleshed out and so integral to the story. Even though this was following a male main character, the women throughout John's life, I'm just gonna call him John just to have one name because that's the name he starts off this book with, but the women that influence him throughout different stages of his life were just so strong, and the different relationships that he built with them, romantic and platonic, were just really excellently done. So all in all, the character work for this one was excellent. It was very funny, and what I found interesting is that this does really feel like true to the times. The jokes that they make even are very like of the age. much. The jokes that they use, the phrases that they use are so dated and shouldn't be funny, but I think the author did an excellent job really capturing the era and really immersing you with the era. So great start to the vlog, first book down, and I really loved it. As for what I'm reading next, I have no idea, so we'll have to figure that out after work today. But this evening, me and my partner are going to see Bring Her Back, and I'm so excited about that. I really enjoyed Talk to Me. It's made by the same people, so I've heard this one's very creepy, so we are seeing that tonight, which of course is going to cut into book reading time, but I am excited for that movie, so I will just go ahead and talk to y'all tomorrow, give you a movie review, and then let you know what book I picked up. Hey vlog, so I did end up enjoying Bring Her Back, not as much as Talk to Me, but this was a very disturbing movie. If you have any sort of, I'll say especially dental anxiety, this one's gonna be a really triggering movie for you. There are a couple of scenes that are just so grotesque with the body horror, and in particular head trauma, that I think are just really going to shock you. Like, there were a number of scenes in here that were just so gross, and I did enjoy this one overall. This one was one of those movies to me that I was really desperately trying not to buy into the social media hype, because it was one of those movies that was receiving so much promotion about how it was the scariest movie ever, and showing like kind of like the same way that they did with the first Paranormal Activity movie back in the day. Like, they'd show audience reactions and the audience is like absolutely freaking out. So there was a lot of hype for this one, and that's not to say it wasn't a good movie, but for me it just didn't really deliver, and I was really trying not to get overhyped for this one, but I did enjoy it overall. I just don't think it was as unique or as strong of a storyline as Talk to Me. I really appreciated that movie, enjoyed that movie. That movie gives me the heebie-jeebies, and this one, it's gonna make your skin crawl for a lot of ways, like the body horror ways that I mentioned, but also just the situation that the main characters are in, because we are following two children whose father has died. So they are moved into the foster care system, and the woman who takes them into her home, things are weird in that house. That is a bare bones synopsis on purpose, because while I do feel like the imagery in here was very creepy, it's pretty easy to pick up on what is happening. Maybe not like all of the little details and the particulars, but just to kind of know what is going on in terms of the plot and how that plot is going to play out. I thought it was just more of a predictable movie than Talk to Me. Very unsettling. You're gonna leave the theater and just feel uncomfortable and just a sick feeling in your stomach because of all of that body horror. And this is also one where it is like a grief and trauma-centric horror that is being explored through the narrative. And overall, it was an effective horror that really made you feel like the shock and the terror and the horror that the main characters were experiencing. I will say, whoever plays one of the main characters, Sally Hawkins, plays the foster mom. And this is like the first thing that I've seen this actress in that I can recall. And I know it's going to be a movie where now whenever I see that actress, I'm going to link her to this role. She did a great job, but she is one of the most hateful characters that I've ever seen in a movie. Overall, very disquieting, unsettling movie. So there is that. And then today I got some very exciting book mail. It's Aardvark book box day. And I don't know if it's as obvious to you as it is to me, but it looks like I'm rapidly losing my light and that it's gonna storm soon. It's gonna storm all this weekend. So I got two books in the box, and the theme for June was medieval horror, and I'm pretty excited about both of these. So the first book that I got is The Devils by Jo Abercrombie, and this is is a grimdark fantasy. I've seen it marked as a fantasy, I've seen it marked as a horror fantasy, marketed as a grimdark fantasy, so I don't know how much horror, how much fantasy this is going to be. Nevertheless, I am excited about this one. This will be my first Jo Abercrombie, and it just sounds right up my alley. So the blurb for this one is holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds, and I think it's about a group of misfits who are attempting some sort of pilgrimage to save the world. I don't know. Based on the clues for this one, there are apparently werewolves and devils and angels and a priest, so I'm really intrigued. This one is over 500 pages, so definitely a chunky fantasy that I'm looking to diving into maybe this month. The second book that I got is an author that I have read from before, and that is The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. I am absolutely obsessed with this cover, and this was a special edition. The hardback has this really cool foiling as well. This one is a transfixing fever dream of medieval horror, and it's about a castle that is under siege, and some very unexpected saviors come to help the castle, and madness ensues. So I'm kind of in the mood to read one of these this week. Obviously, I just finished The Pretender, and that was not horror, but it was historical fiction, kind of around the same general era in history. I guess I'm just in a little bit of a historical mood, so I feel like I should pick up one of these. However, I do also have a book that I have checked out from my library, the ebook from Libby, and it is going to be returned soon, so I should probably start with that one. I don't know, I'm just gonna introduce it. We'll see if today what I end up picking up. But I do have Polybius by Collin Armstrong, and this one, you can just tell by the cover, has very different vibes. It's not medieval fiction at all. This one's a horror sci-fi, and it's Stranger Things meets The Walking Dead in this chilling novel based on the terrifying urban legend about a video game created by the government for psychological warfare. So I guess technically this is historical fiction as well, because it takes place in the 1980s, but obviously very different time period. So I do need to pick this one up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on my lunch break right now, so I'm gonna get back to work, and then after work we'll decide. It's either going to be an 80s horror sci-fi time or a medieval horror. So looking forward to that, and I will check back in tomorrow with the reading update. So Pride weekend has come and gone. It was really fun. It was also incredibly hot. Saturday started a little bit touch and go. We were really worried that the festivities would be canceled because there were heavy thunderstorms in the morning, and it just was not looking like a great day to have an outdoor celebration, but it all cleared up, and the parade and the art market just got pushed back a little bit further into the afternoon, which ended up working out perfectly. We went with some of our friends to lunch, and then we went to Pride, watched the parade, and then shopped around at some of the many vendor booths. I bought a lot of things ranging from an art print to stickers to t-shirts, so that was a lot of fun. We also got some ice cream, which was delicious, but we had to really scarf it down because it was so hot that it was rapidly melting. So it was a great day. I had intended on filming some B-roll, but I was just really focused on trying to stay out of the heat as much as possible, looking at the different vendors, hanging out with my friends, that I was a bad vlogger and didn't get any B-roll footage, but that's okay. I had a fun time. It was a great weekend. And then on Sunday, me and a different friend went to a different Pride market. It was an art market. It was half indoors, which was nice, also half outdoors, which was just equally sweaty. So I didn't get a single thing of B-roll, but I got a nice assortment of things from local vendors, which I am really excited about. So yeah, it was a really fun weekend. Obviously, I was a lot busier than I normally am, so I did not get a lot of reading done. I have started Polybius and I am enjoying it. It's a lot of fun so far. Definitely has those like campy 80s horror vibes. Takes place in the 80s, and just like the pacing, the writing style, things that are happening, it feels like a great B horror movie so far. So we have like a setup where there's a prologue that is unconnected to the main story, like we're following a character that is not the main character, but it introduces the big bad, which is in this case a haunted video game, or maybe it's haunted, I don't know. We haven't gotten to the crux of that yet, but the prologue starts with a construction, it's not construction, it's like a cleanup crew that goes and salvages like abandoned buildings and then sells the parts and pieces and furniture that they find to other people. But they are cleaning out this abandoned office space and they find this video game, and this video game is very creepy from the jump. So we see a member of this cleanup crew start to play this game, and the gameplay of the game is creepy, and the effects that it has on the person playing even more so. That's the prologue. Chapter 1, we are following this small coastal town and some teens within this small coastal town. It is a town that has been really rapidly changing in its demographics. The citizens, the residents that have been there for generations have been getting priced out by other sellers. It's very close to Silicon Valley, and this does take place in the 80s, so Silicon Valley is really booming, and this small, what used to be fishing village, is a perfect location for people who are trying to get into the Silicon Valley sort of lifestyle. So we are following Andy, who her and her mother, they have just moved to this town, and Andy takes a job at a video arcade, and that's where she's going to run into this very creepy game. So really enjoying it so far. It's a lot of fun. It's like a very fun premise, like with the arcade game sort of throwback technology horror. So definitely having a lot of fun with it so far, even though I haven't gotten very far into it at all. But I do have a lot more time to read today, and then tomorrow I'm actually going to get a tattoo, so I'll have a ton of time where I'm just sitting and getting my leg tattooed, so I'll have a lot of time to read then as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting further into this one, and of course getting that tattoo. Hey friends, so a couple of updates. I did end up getting that tattoo. I got Umbreon and Espeon tattooed on my knee. I'll pop a picture up here. We did the outline for both of them. I don't know why I said we. My artist did the outline for both of them and then the color work on the Espeon, but since it was the knee and it had been a few hours by that point, we decided to wait and do Umbreon in a different session. So that's the tattoo in progress so far. The knee is definitely a very spicy spot to get tattooed. Probably would not recommend it until you've gotten a couple of other tattoos under your belt, because the pain can get quite intense. So got the tattoo, that was fun. I also decided, I got about 20% of the way through Polybius and I decided to DNF. I really liked the premise. The premise was really fun and I was excited to read like this B horror during the 80s, and it just didn't live up to the potential of the premise nor the potential of the prologue for this one. I love the cover, I loved the premise, however just the writing style was not connecting with me on a level where I wanted to keep reading it. So I did DNF. There was just a lot of head hopping. We are primarily following two teenagers who, at least at the 20% point, didn't really feel like authentically like teenagers teenagery to me, but we're following two teenagers, but there's a lot of head hopping throughout the chapters and even like through paragraphs, which is just a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. And then there was just a lot of telling and explaining and not showing. And it got to the point at a couple of descriptions of characters, it even felt like, we'll just use the name Bob as an example, but it would be like Bob has red hair, blue eyes, he's 6 feet tall, his motivations are this, this, and this. So that to me, I just don't prefer that style of writing. And so I did end up DNFing this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this one was originally written as like a script or something like that, just with the way it felt just so visual and stating information. I do feel like this could be a cool movie, and maybe I will return to it back at a later date, but it just was not gripping me. So life is too short to keep forcing yourself through books where you're not enjoying the writing style. So I know I mentioned when I got my Aardvark book box, I might pick up the Starving Saints or the Devils. I honestly feel like that could be a fun vlog on its own, reading a bunch of medieval horror. So I did pick up something a little bit shorter whilst getting tattooed, and that would be Our Own Unique Affliction by Scott J. Moses. And I am liking this one so far. I did not get into it far enough at all, so I am planning on finishing it up today and then giving one more update, hopefully, because this is so short, just a final review of this book before concluding the vlog. But this is a vampire novella. We are following Alice Ann, who is an immortal who is desperately longing time in the sun again. She's at odds with her mortal life. She's going through the motions, and she just really craves being a human. And I have a feeling this is going to be a very existential novel about our main character just exploring the curse that is vampirism. So far so good for this one. I'm gonna go finish reading this, and I will check back in later to give you a review of this book and to finish up the vlog. It's getting closer to the end of the day and the end of this vlog. I did finish up Our Own Unique Affliction by Scott J. Moses, and I did enjoy this one overall. I thought it was an interesting concept. It's a vampire story that really takes into account that while it might seem really cool and exciting to have your life be pretty much limitless and unending, that vampirism is also a curse. I did think it explored that really well. I liked the message of this one, and we are following Alice, and I don't want to give too much away because this is a pretty short little novella, but we're following Alice throughout a series of interactions as she explores what makes a life worth living when you're technically no longer alive. And I appreciated that conversation throughout this story. I did think the beginning and the ending were the strongest of this one. The middle of this does get a little bit disjointed. It is for a purpose, and I understand why the narrative was kind of structured that way, but it was really hard to grasp a hold of what was happening in the middle of this novella. There is something that happens that makes Alice not the most reliable narrator in a certain way, and then the narrative kind of unravels as she does a little bit. So I did understand why that was the writing style choice there, but I think I would have preferred just more of a structured narrative for this one. There are some really interesting world building things about vampires and their relationship with people and how vampires survive in the modern world that I was really intrigued by. That's not what this is. That's not the focus of the novella and what it's exploring. It's a very, very internal narrative, but overall I did enjoy my time reading this one. I was very engrossed from beginning to end. I like Alice. I think she did a really good job of being a character who maybe just is kind of checked out of life a little bit, or her afterlife a little bit, going through the motions and wrestling with finding purpose. I think like her character did a great job being a strong character throughout the novel and really exploring both the benefits benefits and then the downsides to being a vampire. So I'm glad that I'm ending this vlog with an entertaining novella, and that's going to be it for this reading vlog. So in this vlog, we had a DNF, a pretty decent novella, one of my most favorite reads of the year, and a new tattoo. Pretty good for a week, I would say. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you'd like to see that medieval horror reading vlog with the devils and the starving saints. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my content. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!